Welcome to another installment of The Goddess Keys, where we unleash and unlock the tools and the jewels to support us with what we fundamentally have always known, which is that we possess all the keys and the tools to support us with returning back to source consciousness. Sometimes we just need some support with remembering. And I'm so honored to be able to offer this space on this corner of the internet to support you with your journey, with your remembrance back to sovereignty. And today we're going to discuss something I've been working on for a bit, which is kind of creating a body of work to support with unraveling the psychology of the copycat. And when I say psychology, maybe a better word for it would be the etheric psychology of the copycat. But there's a lot that we can learn about the way that copycat or mimicking energy works within the etheric realms. And it's a big spiritual warfare tactic that's been utilized for quite some time to cause a great deal of confusion, to keep people out of their power, to keep people out of their destinies. This is a huge tool and ploy that has been utilized by the false matrix just to keep the general human population within a state of confusion. And on top of that, to keep a lot of groups within certain positions of quote unquote power, wearing the gifts of others, the energetic resources of others. This copycat energy has been utilized to puff up a lot of perpetrators in the unconscious realms, okay? So it goes pretty deep. I'm not going to go into how deep it goes on this platform. I am going to be simultaneously posting some content around some specific stories that I have with entering the Akashic records and encountering this copycat energy, and just some of the tools that I have for that. And that's on the Patreon, the Holographic Rose Patreon. And so if you are on this path and you are somebody who is a deep diver and is navigating the subconscious realms, but is looking for some more in-depth resources and personalized resources to support you with that journey, I would definitely recommend heading on over to the Patreon and giving it a try and seeing if it enhances your practice in any way. Lots of subliminals, affirmations, meditations, and content and conversations to support you with navigating the nebulous realms of the Akashic records. Okay, with that being said, though, let's get into the psychology of the copycat. So first of all, I've been doing content as it relates to this concept called the mirror effect. A few months ago, I even created a subliminal called the mirror effect, and it's supposed to support folks with shielding as it relates to narcissistic projection. And also purging any narcissistic projection that's playing out within your reality internally. So it's a really good resource to support you with exorcising narcissists in your external reality, but also internally too, because we all have a little narcissist living inside of us. It's just the way it goes, you know. If you are having an issue with narcissists, just so you know, I've said this before, but for folks who are tuning in for the first time, if you're having an issue with narcissists, you're going to need to excavate your inner narcissist first and foremost. And it's a really great self-defense tactic against narcissists. Okay, that's the first thing that you would do. But anyway, all that to say, a few months back, I created this subliminal called the mirror effect. And I've been posting videos about the mirror effect. And I didn't research the term, I swear to y'all, I didn't. At least not that specific term. I've been studying mirrors in the etheric realms pretty closely, but a lot of the information I've gathered through my own meditation experience or from aligning with Earth, and they don't use that concept or that terminology called the mirror effect. And there's some resources I've been finding also on Ascension Glossary related to this topic, and just intuitive downloads that I've been getting. But what's funny is like, as I was preparing for this conversation, I was like, you know what, let me Google the mirror effect. And it's hilarious because the first thing that came up was the 48 laws of power. And apparently in the 48 laws of power, the mirror effect is law number 44. And for folks who don't know, the 48 laws of power is basically like the narcissist handbook. They don't call it that, but it's basically like, how do you control people? How do you psychologically manipulate people to gain power? Okay. And I had read this book, or started to read this book, a really, really long time ago when I first started getting into my journey of like navigating the subconscious mind. And I was studying to be like a hypnotherapist, and I was learning a lot about neuro-linguistic programming and hypnosis from like the standpoint of learning about mind control and the way that mind control is perpetuated, like personally and then also collectively too. So it was kind of like research I was doing. And but I couldn't finish this book, The 48 Laws of Power, because first of all, it's a huge book, and I was just like kind of sick of the mentality. Like I couldn't put up with that whole book, you know. So maybe I read to law 10 or something like that, but I couldn't get really far in the book, to be honest. But it's been referenced a lot of times. So I found it hilarious that law number 44 is the mirror effect. But I swear I didn't know that. And it's funny because the mirror effect subliminal that I did was 4 minutes and 44 seconds long, which is just kind of funny. And I don't know, I was channeling something. I was actually, at the time when I was channeling that information, I was going through a lot of karma related to narcissism and Pleiadian karma in particular. So maybe I was channeling something, y'all. But all that to say, I'm going to be utilizing some content from the 48 Laws of Power, law number 44, the mirror effect, to get into the psychology of the copycat. But I'm going to get into that later. The first thing I want to do is give y'all a Hollywood media example, because sometimes, you know, when I give a movie example, if you've seen the movie in particular, or if you've known about it through the collective consciousness, it kind of like strikes that visual chord in your mind a lot quicker than if I were to explain it to you. Not advocating watching TV or watching movies or whatever, but, you know, I don't know if y'all have seen that movie, that really old school movie. I think it was like done in the 80s or early 90s, called Single White Female. I don't know if that rings a chord or strikes a chord with anyone, but Single White Female was basically about this woman who was looking for a roommate. So she puts out an ad, and in the ad, this is like a long time ago before the internet, y'all. Where she basically says, you know, I'm a single white female, or I don't know if she said I'm a single white female or I'm looking for a single white female as a roommate, which is kind of funny. But anyway, essentially in the movie, she gets this roommate who seems all great, but then the roommate like basically starts like stalking her and literally wants to turn into her, gets the same very distinct haircut and hair color, and then ends up sleeping with her boyfriend and all that kind of stuff, like literally wants to become her, you know? So this whole copycat psychology of the copycat energy is definitely a distortion of love and admiration, okay? In order to embody this kind of copycat energy, there has to be kind of like a distortion of love. Like you admire the person and you want something that the person has, but yet you, instead of giving that person the credit, you kind of just like want to take of that person's essence. Okay. So copycat energy, if you are on the awakening path, if you're awakening, starseed, light worker, what have you, you may have had this energy of the copycat play out in your reality, where it seems like there are people in your reality who want to put you down in a certain way, but then in another way, they want to like study your movements and like become you in really weird ways. I'm sure y'all have stories about this. It's this weird distortion, though, of admiration and love. And it's because whoever's doing this, they don't fully accept or embrace themselves or see the value in themselves. And so they want to, sometimes take from others because they see the value in them, but then they also don't want to acknowledge that they see the value in them. And so they kind of like do sly stuff on the side. Okay. So that's what happens in the third dimension. Okay. You could have a literal like single white female type situation where you have people in your reality, your physical reality, who admire you so much in a weird, distorted way that they want to like kind of be like you. And it just comes off as being like really weird and invasive. Okay. But as within, so without. So if this is an energy that you're encountering in your physical reality, I would offer that you might want to look into what's happening in the non-physical, in the etheric realms, in the Akashic realms, because there's a lot of, stuff around destiny swapping or kind of the swapping of gifts or the swapping of information or ancestries in the unconscious. This could be playing out. Like if you have a this kind of situation, like a single white female situation happening in your physical reality, then what's happening in the unconscious realms? You would want to kind of dive into that. Okay. And that's what I want to kind of get at. Let's get into Law 44 of the 48 Laws of Power. And what's interesting about this book is that it does get you into the mind of a narcissist, and it kind of shows you, it is like a trick bag full of like different ways that you can assert your power in a more like an underhanded way. So it says, according to Law 44 of the 48 Laws of Power, you can neutralize an opponent's impact by doing what they do. Repeating their actions or words frustrates and throws them off from their objectives. Throwing their words or actions back at them can also disguise what you're up to and give you time to maneuver. It works well on military and political campaigns. It's one way to disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect. But more commonly, you'll want to use mirroring psychologically to charm, manipulate, and deceive. Most people try to dominate interactions with their opinions, feelings, and experiences, and that's what others expect. When you instead mirror or reflect back and appear to share their deepest thoughts and feelings, they're disarmed. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about this. Okay, so and how this might work in the unconscious realms. So what this writer is talking about is, when they talk about the mirror effect, is basically utilizing the mirror effect as a veil of seduction. You disguise your true intentions by putting up a mirror and showing the person that you're encountering their own reflection as a way to kind of hide or disguise yourself. Okay. Now, in the subconscious realms, there are these things called seduction fans of seductions, veils of seduction that actually in the etheric realm look like mirrors. So I've been speaking to different ways that etheric harm, I guess, can happen. And I've been talking a lot about how like the false matrix is held up by magnets and mirrors. And so in the last couple of downloads I've done, I've talked a little bit more about this concept around false magnetism. And, mirrors, the mirror effect is another way that information is siphoned, because it's like while you're creating this diversion tactic of the mirror effect, you're seducing the person with the mirror. And anytime you're being seduced, I know like sometimes we think of seduction as being something positive. And I'll go into this in more depth. This isn't something to speak poorly on sexuality as a whole. Sexuality is not the same thing as seduction. Okay, so in our society, we've kind of lumped the two together. But seduction and sexuality is actually different. The thing about it is that in the false matrix, seduction has been used interchangeably with love and romance. Okay. And once again, I mentioned earlier that the psychology of the copycat, within the psychology of the copycat, there is a distortion of love. Okay. And seduction is also a distortion of love, because when you seduce, what's actually happening is in the unconscious realms, you are disarming a person. And while you're disarming a person, there's an energetic exchange that's happening. Okay. And we all have seduced subconsciously, sometimes consciously even, and this isn't to like point finger or point blame. This is something we've been taught to do to survive in the false matrix. Okay. And as we deprogram ourselves from the false matrix, there's a lot of things we do, but in terms of unlearning seduction is we need to be able to see, like truly see when we're being seduced, not when somebody's like flirting with us, but like when we're being seduced in the subconscious realms, okay? Because what happens is if we just have all these veils of seduction covering us, then we can't fully see what's happening, okay? And this is how a lot of the deals have gone down within the false matrix, has been under the guise of, oh, I just want to be your friend, or, oh, I just want to be your partner, like, or, I'm going to give you a compliment. How many times have you maybe dealt with somebody where they kind of get into your good graces through like complimenting you? Or like if we think about like a narcissist, what's something that narcissists are really good at doing? They're good at putting people on a pedestal. So getting in there through compliments, right? And it disarms you, okay? Put your guard down, right? And then right when, you get comfortable, then the jab comes, right? And then it's like, it's that whole concept of like, this is kind of crass, but, you lead an animal to slaughter. What do you do before then? In that practice, you would fatten the animal up first. And then the harvest, when the slaughter happens, I know this is really gross, but the harvest when the slaughter happens is more, okay? It's the same thing on the energetic level, all right? So you puff somebody up, you make them feel really confident and really good about themselves, the whole love bombing thing. And this is why it's really good to study narcissism, because number one, narcissism impacts all of us, and we have perpetuated narcissism on some realm or dimension, okay? So I don't think anyone's exempt from narcissism. That being said, there are master manipulators out there, and there are people who take it to the next level, okay? But in order to be able to see past veils of seduction, the first thing you want to do is also to see how you may have participated in these same practices of casting veils of seduction, okay? And we've done this because we felt that this was the only way to kind of get ahead, or the only way to get love or get affection or get friendship or get hired within the false matrix, right? Is to put on false versions of ourselves, wear masks, mirror what versions of ourselves that maybe we thought other people wanted to see, as opposed to who we truly were. We've all kind of participated within this weird house of mirrors, right? And so one good practice is to interrogate how you may have, number one, been seduced within the false matrix. We all have like a vulnerable spot where, and a lot of times this comes from a wounded inner child or what have you. There's a part of a wounded inner child that we've dealt with or that we haven't healed, maybe, that wants that love and affection and acceptance, and so is more vulnerable to seduction veils and stuff like that, or being manipulated. Okay, so we want to be really clear on what those parts of ourselves are, so that we're not manipulated. Because what happens when we get manipulated within the false matrix is we give our truth away. We wear the truth of others, and what that correlates to in the physical realm is it correlates to loss It correlates to us not fulfilling our dreams. It correlates to us not fulfilling our goals and our destiny. Okay. And, if you are somebody who is awakening or is here to usher in new earth consciousness, you want to be on your path, your true path. You want to make sure that you are impervious to manipulation. Okay. And this requires a really deep amount of shadow work. And so, the first thing you want to do is to be able to see past veils of seduction. Where are you the most likely to be manipulated? A lot of times that's going to be found through your innermost wounds. This is one way we heal. Another thing is, where are you most likely to manipulate others? So we all have to unlearn seduction on some realm or dimension. Seduction usually happens through one of the chakras. So you can be a root chakra seducer, maybe somebody who seduces or gets seduced more through money and material possessions, or a sacral chakra seducer, somebody who seduces or gets seduced more through sexuality. A solar plexus seducer, maybe somebody who seduces or gets seduced more through positions of power. Okay. You could be a heart chakra seducer, somebody who seduces or gets seduced more through the heart, more through love, more through relationships. Throat chakra seducer, somebody who seduces or gets seduced more through communication, whether it's, that could also include the media and that kind of stuff. A third eye chakra seducer, somebody who is really good at making their perception somebody else's perception, okay? Or you take on the perception of others. Or a crown chakra seducer, somebody who seduces more through knowledge, okay? And crown chakra seduction is something you can find really heavily within the school systems and the education systems, or also religious institutions as well. This is something that we all are unlearning, okay? As we exit the false matrix, nobody's innocent here, okay? We've all done things to cope and to get along and to stay on this weird hamster wheel of the false matrix, okay? So it's having these honest conversations with ourselves so that we can be more of our authentic selves. Because if we're caught up in all these seduction veils, what's happening is that we're not able to invite the space for our true selves to emerge, or our souls to be infused and to be soul led. We're led more through seduction tactics, which keeps us in states of fear or trauma or shame, as opposed to who we truly are at a soul essence. Okay. Now, there are some people out there who are master seducers, master manipulators, and they're seducing through all of the things I just mentioned, all those chakras. They got them all down pat. And the way seduction veils work is they work through mirrors, okay? And so it's this weird thing that happens within the etheric where let's say that you are a heart chakra seducer. That means that there are mirrors within the heart chakra space, and you might be able to pull people in through your heart, and being a really loving and compassionate person. But it's because maybe you weren't taught how to fully love or truly love within the false matrix. Maybe the heart space is what you utilize or distort in order to gain the acceptance of others, okay? And what happens is that sometimes there is a veil that's created within the heart space, and it is like an etheric mirror, and basically you would reflect back the love of other people onto them, and it makes them feel more loved. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'll leave some links below so there's a lot of information around how mirrors work in the etheric. It's a pretty deep topic. I'll probably go more in depth with it and talk more about seduction, because there's a lot more to say about it and a lot to unlearn. But that's one way that the mirror effect can be utilized within the etheric. Another way is, it's pretty sinister actually. Sometimes in the etheric realms, there are people who are siphoning information or deferring karma. But if you look into it, it makes it, because of the way they have mirrors within their fields, it makes it look like you're doing it. Okay, I'm going to talk more about that on the Patreon because that goes really in depth, but that's just something to look out for is that, and usually you're going to see this with people who are in positions of power. They've been able to master their fields as such to be able to do that. Okay. Yeah, that's another way that the mirror effect can be utilized. Another thing to watch out for is that we all have karma to heal, but sometimes karma is deferred onto us through mirrors. So we end up reflecting the karma of other people too. And sometimes this is done through like false memories. So I just mentioned earlier about how like healing the inner child is really important because when we heal the inner child or like we heal traumatic memories, then we're able to infuse more of our souls into our form. But what if different like traumatic memories are being projected onto us that didn't actually happen? That's a real thing. Okay. So sometimes there are fake causes and effects that basically happen that are being projected onto us. So, and then when the cause is not actually real, then what happens, then we can't heal that karma. Okay. It's somebody else. We're wearing somebody else's truth, and it's being done through these weird mirrors that we're wearing in our field. And sometimes they can like look like weird mirrored necklaces kind of thing. So like these weird beads of cause and effect, which are not actually of an organic source, that sometimes folks are wearing within the etheric. And it's a great way to get karma projected onto you, you know? So there are ways to basically look out for that kind of stuff and to do some really deep healing work. And this is like some deep etheric implant removal work to support with this. People have been asking me about, you know, different services that I offer. I'm really moving away from offering like one-off services because you hear what I'm saying, right? Like this is pretty intense work. You know, this isn't something you could just sit down with somebody in 1 to 2 hours and just like, hey, this is what you do, you know? Or maybe you could do that. I just find it's not super effective, or I don't feel super effective when I do it. I actually have gotten good feedback from those one-off sessions, but I don't know. I'd rather work with somebody like more long-term. So if, just so you know, because I have been getting questions about it, like I'm offering to work with folks more on a deep dive kind of level. So right now I work with folks for like 6 weeks, 3 months, or 9 months. And then I have like a 12-month program that's launching in 2025. So if that's something you're interested in, I am booking right now mainly for next year. I might have one more spot open for 2024, but if this is something that you're interested, if you're really interested in like making the shift and like getting past a lot of these weird projections and this weird, distorted house of mirrors of the false matrix, and you're looking for a guide to support you and hold space with you during this process, then connect with me. But I'm not really offering just like a one-off session on these things because I like to dive deep or not jump at all. That's kind of my vibe. So yeah, I just wanted to like throw that out there. But yeah, mirrors I like to tell people mirrors can be, they're your gateway out of the false matrix. So you want to learn about mirrors and learn all that you can about them. And then you also want to be able to shatter mirrors sometimes. So sometimes you need to reflect a mirror back to somebody. So as I've been speaking about the mirror effect before, like there are times when you might be encountering people who are engaging in narcissistic projection with you. And a really quick thing that you can do when you're out in 3D, and I've mentioned this before, whereas you could just reflect that right back at them, you know? So if, for example, if you're getting like weird stares from people, and a lot of times people are like doing that to kind of project their shame onto you. If you just like stare right back at them and they get all uncomfortable, then it has the opposite effect, and you just mirrored back their shame onto them for them to deal with. So that's like a really quick thing to do. Sometimes you do need to use the mirror effect if you're dealing with a narcissist like daily, and you don't want to like have the confrontation. Sometimes utilizing the mirror effect and mirroring their actions back onto them without taking ownership of the actions that they're trying to project onto you. Sometimes, to survive sometimes in the false matrix, you would want to utilize the mirror effect, but like to exit the false matrix, you want to shatter all those false projections. And so to do that, it requires shattering the mirrors in the etheric realm. Okay. And that's when the fun begins. It gets fun. It's also very confusing, but like once you start kind of seeing past the trick bag and all the bags of tricks that the false matrix has, and yeah, there's a lot of them, but once you're able to discern, then you're able to reclaim your power and start shattering the false projections. All right. And you can actually see yourself, see your soul essence so much clearer that way. Okay. But to do that, this is why we need to unlearn seduction. Okay. Because veils of seduction are utilized to keep us literally like not seeing something that is literally right in front of our face. Okay. So sometimes some of the biggest manipulators in the etheric plane will have the biggest veils of seduction, to where like, even if you are divinating, or, you have your way of tapping in psychically, there's a lot of folks who tap into this channel who are already naturally psychic, already naturally intuitive, but like, there are, once you start getting really deep into this stuff, there are some huge seduction veils that are being put up by some pretty big perpetrators that, they'll be able to do certain things like right in front of your face, and you're not able to discern it because of the veils of seduction. And so this is why we need to unlearn seduction, and then also heal karma for ways that we may have projected seduction veils onto other people, and take our power back, give others back their power. So one way I can just say that we're trained to cast seduction veils, it's like if you have ever been an educator and if you've ever worked within the school system, right? That's crown chakra seduction. A lot of times you've been programming, maybe you were programming the students that you worked with or something like that on a very particular way of knowing. Okay. And you weren't doing it on purpose. Like, you thought maybe you were helping people, but because it was done within a false matrix context, then that might mean you would want to heal karma, so if you have worked in the education system, you might want to heal karma for that, or also give back any information that you may have siphoned unknowingly in the unconscious realms to students that you've worked with. This is something I've had to do. So I know this from experience. I've spent many years as an educator, and I'm still unlearning crown chakra seduction and stuff like that. So it's taking accountability, but doing so from a place of love, and just knowing that, we're all learning here. We're all deprogramming here. And the desire to want to truly know thyself is the most important part in all of this, So I'm going to stop it there for now. I'll probably do some more stuff. There's a lot more to say around the mirror effect and the way mirrors are used as weapons in the unconscious realms. But I'm going to break it up because it's infinite. It's its own hall of mirrors. If you're interested in learning more of like a personal story and a personal way that I've been navigating this, I posted some content on the Patreon just recently regarding this. So head on over there, and sending y'all so much love, joy, peace until we meet again. Bye, y'all.